What's going on, guys? Welcome to the scent bubble. As you can see, the picture looks a little bit different because we are doing a episode of hot takes in the studio here, and it's going to be a little longer than our normal hot takes because I am reviewing 5 fragrances from the house. The house we're dealing with today is Yom Layl. This is Arabic for day and night, and there's some kind of philosophy behind some of the creations that they put together, but we're not going to get too deep into that. A viewer from the channel, Greenlee, shout outs to him. He said, "Hey man, I really want to know what you think about some of the fragrances from this house. I'd like to send you some fragrances." So he sent me a 5 fragrance discovery set and kind of let me curate which ones that I wanted. And so that's what we're going to be doing hot takes on today, is 5 fragrances from the house. What do you need to know about the house? Obviously, most companies say this, but they claim to bring the highest quality ingredients. And there's kind of 2 distinguishable things that I've seen just in doing a little bit of research on them. Number 1, you can customize fragrances and kind of build your own perfumery. Or 2, if you don't want to make your own fragrances, you can kind of curate your own fragrance experience, kind of with these discovery sets, where you can kind of piece together inspirations of niche and designer fragrances that are widely popular. As you guys will see, the 5 fragrances that we're reviewing today are all inspired by already made, designer houses and niche houses. So we'll go over those in a little bit. But shout outs to Greenlee for supplying this discovery set. This is what the channel is all about, interaction with the community. We're all learning, growing together, and sharing our experiences with one another. And so I'm happy. Hopefully we won't make this video too long, but I'm happy to do a quick review of these 5 fragrances from Yom Layl. Again, starting off with number 1, I've got it all on a notepad here because I knew I would forget. We do these one take, you know what I'm saying, freestyle. So there's no scripting at all, but I do have a little bit of briefing for myself so I don't lose track of where I am. Again, we have 5 fragrances right here. So to start off from the house of Yom Layl, this is a fragrance called Breaking Bad, which is an inspiration of Parfums de Marly Herod. I don't really want to speak to the accuracy of it here because I haven't put my nose to Herod in a while, but I'm very familiar with this DNA. I have smelled Herod before. I mainly just want to speak to the quality of the fragrance. Is this something you should put your nose to, and is it worth picking up? Okay, so this features notes of being woody, spicy, has notes of cinnamon, tobacco, and vanilla. So very familiar profile for me, and we're going to crack into this one first off. Let me make sure I have the right fragrance. Breaking Bad. Okay, so as you can see, it's kind of like a conceptual connection with the vibe of the show Breaking Bad, kind of matching in line with the DNA of Herod. Again, we're not going to get too deep on it. Here are my decants that he sent me. Very high quality. The packaging is pretty superb. It came in this nice little custom black and gold casing for all you nerds who are into kind of the aesthetic of everything. Very high quality glass decants. And this thing was wafting when I got it in the mail. Very pungent. But anyways, okay, let's see how Breaking Bad is. Again, this is an inspiration of Parfums de Marly Herod. Oh, it has a cap on it. I was like, where's the atomizer here? Okay. Great atomizer on these. You can tell these are very high quality. And let's see what we're working with here. Okay, so first off, with this fragrance in particular, I don't want to umbrella all of them just yet, but this is a very high quality fragrance. No synthetics to speak of. Very plush, very luxurious. This is reminiscent of fragrances like Angel Share, though I wouldn't say it's as heavy on the sweetness as Angel Share. It's very quality, it's very pungent, but with Angel Share, there's just kind of this drench of vanillic, cinnamon, spicy cognac, and it's quite heavy in terms of power and sweetness. I would put a fragrance like Angel Share up in the 8 out of 10 category. This is close though. It's about a 6 or 7 in terms of intensity of sweetness, and the tobacco is extremely smooth. The vanilla is very smooth. It doesn't seem like there's a star accord popping out. It's kind of this cinnamon, tobacco, vanilla, spices, perfectly blended together, as definitely not an intense, loud fragrance, but certainly like a moderate, maybe 7 out of 10 intensity of good projection, good sillage, and this seems like it'll perform at least 6 to 8 hours of performance. What I like is it's so natural smelling, and upon the dry down, it maintains its form. So if you're a fan of You know, again, Angel Share-esque. I mean, I think this is like 8 out of 10 closeness. Again, it's not inspired by Angel Share, but that's a fragrance so many people are familiar with. So that's the DNA I'm going to kind of pull from. Don't know how accurate this is to Herod because I haven't put my nose to Herod in probably like 6 months. But I can tell you it's very well done, and it's something you should put your nose to. Definitely fall, winter type of fragrance, or a holiday or something like that, cold weather fragrance. But this is just smooth. I love that the tobacco is smooth. I love that the vanilla isn't super forward in a way that blocks out the other accords. I get the spices. They're very smooth. Nothing's like harsh or peppery or standout. This is just a very nice smooth blend. Again, that was Breaking Bad, and I think that's a winner for sure. Next up, we have Ocean's 11, which is an inspiration of Roja Parfums' Elysium, which has some star accords of citruses, vetiver, and amber. I'm a big fan of Elysium. I'm a big fan of one of my favorite inspirations of Elysium, which is FOMO Fraghead's Asylum, which I think is probably the closest rendition to that DNA. But let's see how close this one is to Elysium. I am very familiar with Elysium. I smell it all the time, not just the inspiration of it, but I have actual Elysium right there. So let's check out this Ocean's 11. Right off the bat in the air, this smells amazing. Now, I don't want to get in the habit of telling you guys a fragrance is amazing just off the opening, but I am going to describe the opening and then hopefully talk enough to be able to experience somewhat of the dry down. A lot of people kind of rate fragrances off of the opening, and the reality is that more than half the fragrances you smell, what you get in the opening is not what you get on the dry down. A lot of fragrances transform, a lot of fragrances break down, and it's very rare that you get a fragrance that maintains the essence of what it's bringing to the table in the opening into the dry down, and that's what you're wearing all day is the dry down. So in the opening, it's a very beautiful, very close to Elysium type of DNA. Like you guys always hear me say, when vetiver is in the base, it puts a smile on my face. It complicates a fragrance. It gives it nuance. It gives it dimension. It gets 3D to my nose. I get that amber. I get the citruses. The citruses don't stand out in a way where, like, I know that there's typically like bergamot, and what other citrus? Grapefruit, things like that. It has a grapefruit accord. This is a very smooth citrus blend. Nothing, no individual note stands out in here. You just get this citrus medley. It's airy, but it's dense. It's got good intensity to it. Power, projection, sillage is probably somewhere around a 6 or 7 out of 10. And this is very close to Elysium. I would even say comparatively to something like FOMO Fraghead's Asylum, which is an inspiration, this is a singular step above it. I would put Fraghead's Asylum at like a 9 out of 10 closeness to Elysium. This feels more 9.5, or dare I even say 10. So they knocked it out of the park with this one. Extremely fresh, extremely aromatic. It's almost like a beach washed up on some Bleu de Chanel, added some vetiver, ramped up the amber. So hopefully that gets you in the region of kind of putting your nose on what I'm smelling here. Very high quality juice here. I can tell you're going to get solid performance, 6+ hours at least. It'll at least get you through a shift. This is any season, any reason. Almost picture like Bleu de Chanel. Again, not accuracy of DNA, but the same feeling you get as like Bleu de Chanel ramped up with amber, tossed in some vetiver, and kind of made a little more variety to the citrus medley that you're smelling up top. And I think that's largely due to the grapefruit, but this is really nice. To me, again, if you're somebody who loves Bleu de Chanel, this is a luxurious step up from that type of DNA because it's a lot more versatile. It's a lot more luxury feeling. And I think the performance is even better as well. So that was Ocean's 11, and man, that was a banger. I like that more than Breaking Bad, but they're very high quality and they're both very well made. Up next, we have Jon Snow EDP, and I have to make the distinction that it's the EDP because on the website, there seemed to be a Jon Snow, and it didn't list Parfum or Eau de Toilette, but there was Jon Snow and Jon Snow EDP. This is the EDP. This is an inspiration of Bleu de Chanel. Ironically enough, we had the comparison to the last fragrance, and it features notes of citrus medley, ginger, incense, and patchouli. I'm really interested to see if that incense and patchouli comes out because that will make it a very distinguishable fragrance, I think, from the very basic Bleu de Chanel DNA, which does have those accords in them. But again, just as a fragrance overall, a freshy, daily use, kind of luxurious feel. Things like incense and patchouli make fragrances stand out, have more signature, and be able to move a little bit more up the scale in terms of being able to dip into luxurious date night, semi-formal, and even formal in some cases. In the air, this smells good. Man, I'm interested to see the price point on these fragrances. You guys are gonna have to do the dirty work in looking these up. But man, this fragrance has a beautiful opening. Bleu de Chanel EDP-esque, not necessarily Parfum. It's a little more forward. I hate to compare it to Club de Nuit Iconic, but picture Club de Nuit Iconic. A lot of people say that that fragrance outperforms Bleu de Chanel because it has a little bit more of a synthetic push in its sweetness. This DNA-wise feels closer to Club de Nuit Iconic, but it does push a little bit fresher and a little bit more dense, but it does have a synthetic-ness to it, but it does feel more natural than Iconic by about 10 to 20%, and it smells really good. That synthetic or that description that I'm giving it doesn't take away from the quality of the fragrance. This is easily an 8 out of 10, perhaps even a 9 out of 10, but it is spot on with the Bleu de Chanel DNA, and it's definitely worth every penny because Bleu de Chanel is one of the most like fresh, sophisticated, all around, any season, any reason wears for all ages. Yeah, 8 or 9 out of 10. I probably lean towards an 8 just because the DNA is just such a familiar DNA to me in my fragrance journey right now that it kind of gets played out to something like an Elysium. Elysium is more interesting of a DNA. This is more safe of a DNA, but nonetheless, it's spot on to its inspiration. It's very good, great push and projection and sillage, and I think maybe this one might even perform a little bit better than Bleu de Chanel. And I don't want to make the distinction of eau de toilette, eau de parfum, parfum, but this is a Jon Snow EDP, so I got to imagine that they're cloning the EDP of Bleu de Chanel, though it doesn't say. But yeah, you really get that ginger, you get that citrus melody, not in the same way as Ocean's 11. It's a little bit more dialed down, a little fewer citruses, but that ginger really sticks out. And the patchouli isn't strong, but I would say in a 5% plus 5% way, the patchouli and incense kind of just tickles its way around the edges of this fragrance. I wish it was in there more, but again, I feel like bad a little bit by giving this an 8 out of 10, but comparatively to the others, it doesn't have as much signature, though it is extremely high quality, and I can imagine this having really good performance, and it falls right in line with the inspiration. I think just as a DNA comparatively to the other things that they offer, this is going to fall a little bit short of signature, but nonetheless, it's a really great rendition. I think as far as closeness to Bleu de Chanel, I give it bare minimum a 9.5 out of 10. So if you're interested in a Bleu de Chanel alternative, this is absolutely one of them. So far, very impressed with the accuracy to the inspiration, very encouraged by the quality, and seemingly the performance on all these so far seems 6 hours plus. Some of them, like more of the cold weather fragrances, seem to have a little bit more projection and push, which leads me to believe that that adds to the performance. But nonetheless, these are extremely high quality, at the very least, overspray and get the job done. Next fragrance in line is Hitman, which is a green Irish tweed from Creed inspiration and features notes of lemon verbena, violet leaf, and ambergris. I think there's one other accord there or note in the fragrance, but those are some of the keys. It's a very simplistic breakdown, and I just smelled Bleu de Chanel. I just smelled green Irish tweed just last week in person, so I'm pretty familiar with that DNA. I can speak to the accuracy, and let's go ahead and, oh wow, my atomizer's giving me some issues. Okay, good. I thought we were gonna have to forego that review. Okay. Give my nose a little bit of a rest here. We're gonna smell a pillow. Wow, this is very green. This is very green. Let me say it again. This is extremely green. Oh man, I'm trying to think of a connection I can give you guys to this. Very close, first and foremost, to green Irish tweed. Insanely close. I would say it leans a little closer to something like Eau Sauvage from Dior, but Eau Sauvage from Dior feels old school, okay? This doesn't quite feel old school, but the rendering of the green is a little past earthy and almost bitter bite, similar to the bite on something like Encre Noir Sport, but two different DNAs. This is lush greenery, but it's more matured and earthy and realistic, and not as much, you know, sometimes when you're smelling green notes or like a forest or just greenery, it has kind of a synthetic push to feel a little bit more sweet. This doesn't do that at all. This is like goes to earthy and then a little bit more. So this is a very earthy, kind of almost bitter, matured take on the green DNA. It starts very bright and then it kind of darkens up and gets a little soily. That's why I made the reference to something like Encre Noir Sport, because a lot of people anticipate, even though they say that's a sporty, out of the shower fragrance, which comparatively to A La Extreme and Encre Noir OG, it is more fresh and it is more of an out of the shower fragrance, but it's still a more bitter rendering of vetiver, so it feels dark comparatively to other fragrances fresh out of the shower. This, similarly, if you think of something like Greenly, or even like what's the other, not Green Irish Tweed, but what's the other one, like a Silver Mountain Water or something, this almost gets on the dry down a little more silvery and a little more earthy dark greens than bright airy citric greens, if that makes sense. And Green Irish Tweed has a vibe about that as well that does that, but it maintains such a aromatic freshness to it and a lightness, where this I feel darkens up a bit more mature and more dark than that, but not by much, maybe just by about 20%, but it definitely is noticeable. Very earthy fragrance. I don't think this is for all ages. Something like this I think is 30 and up minimum, just due to the nature of the maturity of earthiness of this fragrance. As far as closeness, I give it about an 8.5 to 9 out of 10 in terms of Green Irish Tweed. The opening is extremely close, but I'm referring now more to the dry down. I think with a fragrance like this, it might lack a little bit in performance. I think 6 hours is reliable, but I think past that, it's going to depend on the type of skin that it's sitting on and how much you ramp up the sprays. Very impressed with the opening, not as much impressed with the dry down, but it's still a high quality fragrance, guys. When you compare this to something like Armaf's Très Nuit, which is supposed to be one of the closest renditions of Green Irish Tweed, this kills it in terms of its natural green feeling. Armaf's Très Nuit feels more synthetic lemony, but for that reason, I think it makes it more commercial. Like something like Très Nuit could dress up or down in terms of the age bracket due to its synthetic lemoniness, but something like this is more true to the DNA, but because of that, and it goes a little bit more earthy, it starts at 30 and up for me in terms of age. It's an any season, any reason fragrance, everything from casual to out of the shower to upscale casual. I don't think this is a date night, semi-formal, or formal fragrance. This is just for somebody who appreciates the outdoors and wants to feel a little bit more upscale than casual, or it's just something you wear around the house out of the shower. Make sure your girl likes this type of DNA though, because it is more of a darker rendering of that greenery and metallicness. I give this one probably, I hate to say it, because in terms of closeness, again, it's more 8.5 out of 10 in terms of closeness, but just due to the overall dry down and the DNA I'm getting with the dry down, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's the weakest score out of all of them so far. But that is Hitman, which is a Green Irish Tweed inspiration. Very well done though. Still, with that low score, still annihilates Armaf Très Nuit. Très Nuit is fire, but it's a different fragrance than Green Irish Tweed a little bit, but it also shines because it goes more youthful as well, more up and down on age. But in terms of closeness, we got to give the performance points to Hitman. Okay, final fragrance, and we're hitting the 20-minute mark, so we got to fly through this, guys. This is Explorer's Rush. I appreciate you guys for your patience. This is an inspiration of Chanel Allure Homme Sport. Features notes of orange, neroli, cedar, vanilla, and vetiver. Those are some of the star notes. There are more notes in the composition, but I just want to give you guys just a little bit of a feel. Again, this is called Explorer Rush and the inspiration of Chanel Allure Homme Sport, which is a lot of people's favorite. I don't have a bottle of that yet, but I have smelt it before. Not going to speak too much to the accuracy just because it's been a while, but I am going to speak to, is this an amazing fragrance? Let me get my note sheet here and let me get a drink of water since we're closing out. Okay, to take us home here, guys, it's okay. Little bit better than the Green Irish Tweed inspiration. Very close, though, to Chanel Allure Homme Sport. I actually give it probably like a 9 out of 10 in terms of closest at bare minimum. A dry down would really affect my score, but off rip, I give it like a 9 out of 10 in terms of closeness. There's a fragrance from Maison Alhambra called something Sport. It looks just like the Allure Homme Sport DNA, which I think is going to have bigger performance than this, but in terms of accuracy, this is closer. I might even give this like a 9.5. It's super fresh, super natural. The thing I love about this is the vanilla doesn't push forward, which a lot of the clones tend to do. This vanilla is tucked and wrapped in massive amounts of vetiver, cedar, and neroli. Again, the orange and vanilla are supporting roles to the star accords in this fragrance, which is what I love when we talk about sweet fragrances, guys. To me, what matures a fragrance, what makes a fragrance feel like it has dimension, sophistication, and complexity, and quite frankly, stands out from a lot of designer fragrances, is what's going on. There needs to be like a role reversal. And again, this is just a preference, but a lot of fragrances in the designer world lead with their star note and give too light of a supporting role to a lot of the, in my opinion, more important notes that complicate, give dimension, and give character to a fragrance. So typically with a lineup like this, you would expect to see orange and vanilla very much up front. But with this fragrance, it's quite the opposite. Neroli, cedar, and vetiver are more the 60-40, 60 in front, and the 40, maybe even 30% with this is kind of this tuck, beautiful blend of vanilla and orange. And I just absolutely love that, because when you have a fragrance that is alluring with its sweetness rather than pushing itself out there and saying, hey, look at me, I'm sweet, and then blinding the nose from getting to all of the nuance to the fragrance, it makes it feel young, or it makes it feel designer, or it just makes it feel less classy of a fragrance. But with that being said, as far as a fragrance, I give this at least a 9 out of 10 overall in terms of how I enjoy it. It lacks a little bit of signature, but it's super fresh, super well done, close, has a bunch of amazing notes. It's one of the most beautiful handlings of orange and vanilla that I've seen. And yeah, it might lack a little bit on performance. I think you should at least get 6 hours plus on this, maybe 6 to 8. Again, I don't have full day wearings with these. I wish I had time for that, but this is just a hot take. This is a very well done fragrance. Okay. Let's wrap up and, cap off at the 25-minute mark. I did want to do separate reviews of these, but since I need to send them back, Greenlee would have been totally fine hooking me up with these and letting me sit with these. But I think kind of a compiled hot takes list, if you will, for somebody considering Yom Layl fragrances, a hot takes video is much better. And I think I gave you guys a little bit more depth than most of the quicker videos that you've seen. And we got to walk through 5 fragrances all in a row, so you guys can just kind of have everything in one place rather than having to hunt around for individual videos. So that was Yom Layl. Breaking Bad, which was PDM Harriet inspiration, Ocean's 11, which was an Elysium inspiration, Jon Snow EDP, Bleu de Chanel, Hitman Green Irish Tweed, and Explorer's Rush, which was Chanel Allure Homme Sport. Breaking Bad, I believe, had, and again, my scores might be a little bit off, but Breaking Bad was very good. I gave it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Ocean's 11, I gave a 9 out of 10. Jon Snow EDP, I gave it about an 8 out of 10, maybe leaning towards a 7, just due to its kind of average DNA. I think I did give it a 7. Hitman is a 7 as well, though Jon Snow is a little bit better than it. Explorer's Rush, I give more of an 8, perhaps even a 9. Just because it lacks a little bit of signature, but it was extremely well done and very close to the original DNA. So overall, these are heavy hitters. I can't reiterate how much, how fresh and how high quality the ingredients are. And I think because of that, some will shine over others in terms of performance. But you guys know me, I don't care about performance. If the DNA is amazing, overspray, point blank period, carry a travel spray. And definitely get a discovery set if you're rocking with this house. Hopefully we can try some more in the future. But yeah, for me, would I purchase these? I would purchase probably Breaking Bad, definitely Ocean's 11. Jon Snow is great as well. Green Irish Tweed is probably the only one I really wouldn't purchase here. Explorer's Rush, I definitely would purchase. So 4 out of 5 for me. Again, good Green Irish Tweed rendition. It's just the DNA for me kind of bent. It kind of broke apart on the dry down and went a certain direction that I feel wasn't maintained in the actual real DNA of Green Irish Tweed, but it is one of the more close DNAs that I've had. I think I actually prefer the synthetic push on it to keep it bright and to keep the performance up and keep it from going too dark. But yeah, that's just my personal take. Again, this is the scent bubble. This was a hot take of a discovery set from Yom Layl, courtesy of my boy Greenlee, an excellent reviewer or viewer of the channel, and he does all kind of help with moderation when we go live and stuff like that. So shout outs to him for providing the discovery set. Let me know if you guys have tried Yom Layl as well. Again, you can kind of customize fragrances and curate your own inspiration discovery set, and they're very high quality. So you guys should definitely tap in. Again, I don't know where the price sits, but as long as it's fair, I think it's more than, you know, get your bang for your buck with some quality inspiration. So they definitely stand a level above a lot of the clones and dupes, even that you guys have seen me discuss on my channel. I think there's a time and a place for fragrances like these, but they did a very good job, and I'm very impressed. Looking forward to exploring more from them in the future. Like, comment, and subscribe. More importantly, turn on that notification bell so you can be made aware of all the quality content we have coming. Let me know if you liked the fact that I consolidated this video into doing all 5 at once, or if you prefer in the future when I do discovery sets, doing an individual review of each. Again, I know it was consolidated, but I did spend adequate time on each fragrance, I feel, in terms of letting you know if you should purchase it, is it close to the inspiration, a little bit of the philosophy behind the house, and all that good stuff. Again, hope you guys have a blessed week, and until next time, this is the Scent Bubble signing off.